7R Unit 4 review, I believe, is 4 pages. I have assigned for you to do all 4 pages in one day because I usually divide it up into evens or odds, but because of the Thanksgiving holiday coming up, I wanted to make sure we got the test in before the long weekend. So I know it's a lot and I apologize for that, but you do have the entire weekend to get this done. So let's start. Hopefully you've done these and now you're using the video to check that your answers. The directions do say to solve and check, which means that I should have a written out check for every single one of these problems. Because I'm assigning the entire review sheet for you to do and not just the evens or just the odds in 2 days, I'm having you do it all in one. Don't worry about physically writing out the check, but you should be using your calculator and the video, of course, to check and correct your work. But on the test, if it says to solve and check, you will have to do a written check for each problem that the directions specify for. Problem number 1. Again, these should be done already. You should just be fixing and correcting and not doing, just fixing and correcting. I'm going to start by subtracting 2 on both sides. Those are gone. So x is equal to 8. And again, check that by substituting that 8 back in. Number 2, the inverse of subtracting 7 is to add 7. X is equal to 7, 8, 9, 10. Use your calculators. Number 3, the inverse of multiplying by -5 is to divide by -5. I have x is equal to -3. Number 4, the inverse of dividing by 4 is to multiply by 4. And make sure you're showing what you're doing. X equals -40. -10 times 4. Number 5, there's a negative in front of the x, and so that means the x is not alone, so I'm going to put my 1 in. This is -1 times x, so I'm going to divide in order to get rid of that multiplication. X is equal to -3. So hopefully that first 5 problems went well. Number 6, two-step equation. I'm going to start by subtracting 3 on both sides. 7m equals 7. The opposite or inverse of multiplying by 7 is to divide by 7. M is equal to 1. Number 7, add 2 to both sides. I now have x over 7 equals 6. The inverse of dividing by 7 is to multiply by 7. Those now cancel, reduce to 1. X is equal to 42. Number 8, subtract 2 on both sides. 8y equals 16. Divide both sides by 8. Y is equal to 2. Number 9, add 2 to both sides. X over 3 equals 9. The inverse of dividing by 3 is to multiply by 3. X is equal to 27. And your test, the whole first part of your test will be like this, where you have to show all of your steps and all of your work. It won't be multiple choice like the quiz was. So hopefully you are able to do these steps. And if not, you are fixing and following along. Combine like terms. 2x and a 9x give me 11x. I've now created only a one-step equation. Divide by 11 on both sides. X is equal to 4. Number 11, combine like terms. A 3r and a 5r give me an 8r. I now, again, one step, divide both sides by 8. R is equal to 8, 16, 24, 3. Number 12, 1d. You could put a 1 with that d. There's one of them. Plus a 4d is a 5d. 5d plus 3 equals 38. I have now created a two-step equation. I'm going to subtract 3 in order to get it over to the 38 on the other side of that equal sign. 5d equals 35. I am then going to divide by 5. D is equal to 7. Number 13. Okay, again, some of you might have to draw that wall on all of these equations. That's okay. 6c plus 12, there's nothing to combine there on the left-hand side, but on the right-hand side, I have a 22 and a 20. That means I can combine those and make that a 42 over there. 6c plus 12 just drops down. The inverse of adding 12 is to subtract 12 in order to get it over to the 42 on the opposite side. 6c equals 30. The inverse of multiplying by 6 is to divide by 6. C equals 5. Again, guys, if you missed any videos in this unit or this seems confusing to you, please make sure you go back and get caught up on what you missed before you continue with this. Number 14, 15, 16, 17 all have parentheses. We need to use a distributive property. 3 times 5z gives me 15z. 3 times a negative 2, use your calculator, negative 6. Again, you shouldn't be just copying, you should be checking. Add 6 to both sides. 15z equals 30. I'm then going to divide by 15. Z equals 2. Again, a lot of steps there. You have to distribute. Make sure you're using your inverse operations correctly. Close my bedroom door. So make sure that you have all those steps correct, especially when we get to the negatives. Distribute and multiply by 2. I get 6x plus 4 equals 28. Now that I've gotten rid of my parentheses, there's no combining like terms, so I'm just going to go ahead and start solving. Subtract 4 from both sides. 6x equals 28. Divide both sides by 6. And 28 divided by 6. Just want to make sure here. Oh, yeah, that doesn't look good. Oh, I did a mistake. 28 take away 4. See, I got a decimal. I'm like, that doesn't seem right. That should be a 24 divided by 6. And that gives me 4. Okay. Number 16, I have a negative with no number there, so I'm going to sneak in my 1. So this is negative 1 times x, which is a negative 1x. And again, you could put a 1 with the x as well and just do negative 1 times 1. Still going to give you a negative 1x. Negative 1 times 5 is a minus or negative 5 equals 16. Remember, when you have a negative on the outside, it changes all the signs on the inside to their opposites. So that plus 5 is now a minus 5. I'm going to add 5 to both sides. Opposite operations, inverse operations. Negative 1x equals 21. In order to get rid of the negative 1, I'm going to divide. X equals negative 21. Hopefully you're doing well with all of this. Negative 4 times 2. Negative 8h. Negative 4 times 2, again, is a negative 8 equals 16. The inverse of subtracting 8 is to add 8. Get it over to my constant. Negative 8h equals 24. Now divide by negative 8. H equals negative 3. Again, you use your calculator to double and triple check all of your steps and your integer rules. Number 18. On the left-hand side, I can combine the 5y and the minus y, which is really a minus 1y. 5y take away 1y is 4y. Make sure when you draw your shapes, you take the sign with it. Subtract 3 from both sides. 4y equals negative 44. Signs are the same. I add and keep, or just punch in negative 41 minus 3. Divide both sides by 4. Y is equal to negative 11. Number 19, I can combine the negative 5 and the plus 11. That gives me a positive 6. X over 3 plus 6 equals negative 12. The inverse of adding 6 is to subtract 6. X over 3 equals negative 18. Signs are the same, add and keep, or use that calculator. The inverse of dividing by 3 is to multiply by 3. X is now isolated and alone. Negative 18 times 3, negative 54. And again, you should have substituted these in and make sure they checked. I know you're using the video right now, but on the test, you should be substituting them in when you're done. Make sure they work. 1/5 times 5x, 1x. 1/5 times a negative 15 is a negative 3, equals 32. The inverse of subtracting 3 is to add 3. 1x equals 35. We all know that a 1x and an x are the same, so I'm just going to eliminate that coefficient of 1, or you could divide both sides by 1. You're still going to end up with a 35. 2/3 times 6x is 4x. 2/3 times a negative 18. I'm going to use my calculator there. Gives me a minus 12. Add 12 now to 16. Add 12 to both sides. 4x equals 28. The inverse of multiplying by 4 is to divide by 4. 28 divided by 4 is 7. Number 22. Okay, I'm going to draw my wall. There's nothing to combine together, so I'm going to add 1.5, bring it over to the 8.5. 0.5x equals 10. Then divide by 0.5. X is equal to, I just want to double check before I say it out loud, 20. Number 23, no combining, no distributing. I'm going to start by adding 3.7 because that doesn't have an x to my negative 5.8. Negative 0.7x. If you box up your variable, it has a minus or a negative in front of it. Negative 5.8 plus 3.7 equals negative 2.1. I am now going to do the opposite of multiplying by a negative 0.7 and divide by a negative 0.7. There's no adding or subtracting here. This is multiplication, so the opposite of multiplication is division. X equals negative 2.1 divided by negative 0.7 is 3. Guys are probably so tired of hearing my voice. I don't blame you if you shut the volume off and just check your answers and just listen if you get it wrong. Totally don't blame you. 3.2x plus 1.8x, I can combine those together. And that gives me a 5x plus 4.2 equals, and I can combine the 15.2 and the 4 on the right-hand side because they're like terms. That gives me 19.2. So 5x plus 4.2 equals 19.2. I'm now going to subtract 4.2 from the left to bring it over to the right. 5x equals, so 19.2 minus 4.2 gives me 15. Divide by 5. X equals 3. Okay, moving along. Number 25, fractions. On the left-hand side, both of these terms have x's, so I can combine those together. Okay, again, if you use a calculator, it's going to give you the reduced form. I think we had this exact same problem in the fractions lesson. So if you don't use a calculator, you'll get 4/6. If you do use a calculator, you're going to get 2/3. Either way, we're going to get the same answer when we're done. The inverse of multiplying by 2/3 is to divide by 2/3. Again, it looks a little weird, but you have that calculator. 8 divided by 2/3 is 12. Number 26, there's a negative in front of the parentheses. I have to get rid of the parentheses before I can do any sort of combining or getting my variable alone. So I'm going to start by sneaking that 1 in. Negative 1 times 3 is a negative 3x. Negative 1 times a negative 6 is a positive 6. Negative on the outside changes the signs on the inside. 7x comes down, minus 2 comes down, equals negative 20. So everything I didn't use now comes into the next step. I've already used the minus 1 or the negative 1, so that's gone. I've distributed it. On the left-hand side, I can combine the 7x and the minus 3x, which is 4x. I combine the positive 6 and the minus 2, which gives me a positive 4, equals negative 20. Now that I've simplified and combined as much as I could on the left and there's nothing to do on the right, I'm now going to use my inverse operations. Subtract 4 on both sides. 4x equals negative 24. Divide both sides by 4. X equals negative 6. Number 27, I can combine negative 10 and minus 2 on the left, which gives me negative 12 equals, and on the right, I have parentheses. I'm going to distribute the 1/2 to get rid of those parentheses. 2x minus 2. The minus 4x comes down. That right-hand side can still be simplified more. I can combine the 2x and the minus 4x. That gives me a negative 2x minus 2 on the right equals the negative 12 on the left. Add 2 to get it to the minus or negative 12. That gives me a negative 10 equals a negative 2x. The inverse of multiplying by negative 2 is to divide by negative 2. I now have 5 is equal to x, or x is equal to 5. All right, let's change this up a little bit. I'm going to do the word problems in blue. Write and solve an equation. So not only do we have to translate, but we have to solve it. 3 times a number is 21. Is means equals 21, and it does say equation in directions, which means we should have an equal sign. 3 times a number, 3x. 3x equals 21 is my translation into an equation. I'm now going to solve that equation by dividing by 3 on both sides. 21 divided by 3 is 7. Number 29, 7 less than, than's a switch word. 7 less than a number is 20, so equals 20. A number, which I'm going to use x, needs to come first. And then 7 less than that number. X minus 7 equals 20 is the translation. I then need to solve it by adding 7 to both sides. X is equal to 27. Number 30, 11 less than 5 times C is 19. Is 19 equals 19. 11 less than is a switch word. 5 times C, so I have to use what they're telling me to use, so 5C. 11 less than, so minus 11. 5C minus 11 equals 19 is my equation. I'm then going to solve the equation by adding 11 to both sides. 5C equals, that's 10, carry the 1, 30. I then divide by 5. C is equal to 6. Number 31, 13 more than 4 times a number is negative 91. Is equal negative, I reversed my numbers, negative 91. 13 more than 4 times a number. Than is a switch word. 4 times a number needs to come first, 4x. 13 more than that plus 13. That's my equation. I now solve my equation. Subtract 13 from both sides. 4x equals negative 91 minus 13, negative 104. Divide both sides by 4. X equals negative 26. And again, box up those answers so it's nice and clear and easy to read. Number 32, 3 times the sum. So 3 times the entire sum of a number and 2 is 27. So we need parentheses because we has to be 3 times whatever the sum is. And sum means addition, and we're adding a number and 2. So 3 parentheses, x plus 2 equals 27. I then solve that equation, distributing the 3. 3x plus 6 equals 27. Subtract 6 from both sides. 3x equals 21. Divide by 3. X is equal to 7. Number 33, 5 less than, there's my switch word, the product of negative 3 and a number is negative 2. So than is a switch word, so the product, which means multiplication, of negative 3 and some number. So negative 3x, 5 less than that. So negative 3x minus 5 equals negative 2. I'm now going to add 5 to both sides. Negative 3x equals 3. Divide both sides by negative 3. X equals negative 1. Number 34, 9 more than is a switch word. -8 times a number. So, I'm going to do there goes my phone. 9 more than 8, -8 times a number, so it's -8x.
Call from Kentley Donald.
Oh, it's my mom. My maiden name is Cantley. Interesting fact if you're actually listening to the video. Subtract 9 from both sides. -8x equals -7 minus 9, -16. I then divide both sides by -8. X equals 2. And you guys could bet that that's totally going to be a Google question. 5 more than twice a number is 7. Is 7 means equal to 7. 5 more than is a switch word. Twice a number means 2x. 5 more than that. So 2x plus 5 equals 7. I'm then going to solve by subtracting 5 on both sides. 2x equals 2. Divide by 2, and we get x equals 1. Number 36, Sally loves to text her friends. Her cell phone company charges her 5 cents per text. She has to pay a connection fee of $25 a month. Sally can only afford to pay $40 a month. What is the greatest number of texts that she can send or receive? So she can only pay a total of $40 a month. So we know that our equation has to be equal to 40. Each text is 5 cents. I don't know how many text messages she can send. That's what they're asking us to find. So I'm going to use an X there. 5 cents per text would be 5 cents times how many messages, so X. There is a connection fee of $25, so that would be added on to my bill, so plus 25. So my equation is 5 cents per text, so 5 cents times X, plus my $25 connection fee equals a total of $40. That's all I have. The directions did say to write an equation and solve. So if you did get an answer and the right answer, that's great, but you have to write an equation and solve it. Subtract 25. So I'm subtracting off the connection fee that I have to pay. This 5 cents per text comes down. 40 minus 25 equals 15. I'm then going to get rid of the 5 cents by dividing, because it's per text. And you don't need the 0 in front of the decimal point, but I'll leave it for now, because that's what they gave us in the problem. X equals 300. So I can send 300 text messages with my $40. Number 37, Kelly is renting a car and is charged $120 for the day, plus 25 cents for each mile. Write an equation of the situation and find how many miles can be driven if Kelly's going to pay $170. So the total is $170. It's $120 for the day plus 25 cents for each mile. I don't know how many miles. You can use an M, you can use an X. That is our unknown. I'm then going to solve. I'm going to subtract off the $120 they're going to charge me for the day. I'm then going to divide by how much it is per mile to figure out how many miles we can go. So 50 divided by the 25 cents per mile, I can go 200 miles. Again, you have to write an equation and solve the equation. I'm going to do the review section in my second part of the video. So that was all of the new unit. I'm now going to attach another video that's review of chapter